Hi, this is Vashti with Vashti's House, and this is Mom Talk for Adults. Thanks for joining. My husband and I have a son, and how he became our son is we took guardianship of him out of the juvenile justice system. He didn't have a place to go when he was released after being in there for 7 years. He spent his whole adolescent years incarcerated in within the juvenile incarceration system. Anyway, he came to live with us. Well, at one point, he was really kind of in and out of addiction himself, of course, which kind of makes sense. But at one point, when he was in his active addiction, he was not at our house. We did not know where he was. But homeless family, or houseless, or unhoused, whatever you want to call it, showed up at our house. And the dad said that he knew our son from before. And he said that our son had told him, if you ever need anything, that to go to his parents, because his parents were really nice and would help him. Okay, well, this is what he was asking. It was him, and he had his girlfriend with him, and they had 3 small children. He said, we just lost our apartment. We're in recovery. We're not on drugs. But can we spend the night at your house? Because we don't want to go to a homeless shelter and get split up. They had no place else to go. And they just showed up at our door. We did not know them. And our response to them, they were in a crisis situation. The youngest was 8 months. Now, my husband and I were empty nesters. We had empty rooms. But I'm a very private person, and we didn't know them. And our house is not accustomed to babies. I mean, we're not. It wasn't, kid-friendly specifically. Like we didn't have like the outlets covered and stuff like that. But we said, okay, you can stay for one night. I mean, we've had a lot of people stay at our house, so this wasn't unusual for us. We've had a lot of people stay at our house in transition or in a crisis situation. But it was usually somebody that we knew or somebody connected to our kids, or, that were already a part of our life. Never did we have somebody who we'd never met before and in a situation like this. But because they had children, we let them stay. But here's what we said. We said, you can stay at our house. And they ended up staying for 3 months, and we actually really enjoyed it. It was a very positive experience for us. But we told them, you can stay at our house. However, you still have to be responsible for your kids. You have to stay clean and sober. You have to either be looking for a job or doing your things. The mom had a job, and dad had to be watching the kids, looking for a job, whatever. Obviously, you had to stay clean and sober. And you have to take care of your own kids. We're not going to be living babysitters. You got to feed your kids. You got to get them up in the morning. It went into the school year. You got to get your kids to school. You've got to feed them. And we're not going to be doing all of that for you. And you have to, and we put them all in one room, the main room on the main floor. We had upstairs rooms, and that would want to keep that private. But the kids ended up sleeping on the couches in the living room, which was fine. We put little cots in the room initially, but they didn't want to sleep on the cots with their parents. So they slept in the living room, which was totally fine. We didn't care. And the baby slept with the parents. And that was fine. However they wanted to arrange it was fine. But here's the deal, is that this is something that I want you to think about, is that the reason that my husband and I are able to help people, were available and could do it, is because we know how to do it. And therefore, we can maintain our resources, and we can keep the experience a good experience, and it can help them do what it is they were trying to do. It was not a free-for-all. They didn't have the right to come into our house. They could not demand a room. They had no authority to just come over to our house and say, we deserve to be here. No, they came with their hat in their hand, and they agreed to the terms to be in our house. Because our house, we make it so that it is a very high-functioning home, so that people cannot just feel safe, but actually be safe in our home, and that it's actually helping people get to their next level in life. It wasn't for them to, it wasn't a free-for-all. We weren't going to be responsible for them. We were not going to be taking the place of the parents. The parents had to be the parents. And in doing that, it actually actually helped them get to the next stage of where they needed to be. And I think that there's a misconception that giving people free stuff or valuing people is just passing things out and letting people have free reign. But actually, the opposite is true. If you don't have to work for a thing, if you don't have to be responsible for a thing, you don't value it. It has no value. Also, you are unable to receive it in a way that it's going to benefit you if you're not responsible for it. Because blessings actually are responsibilities in disguise. And when somebody gives you something or allows you an opportunity to, be helped, it's actually a blessing. And these guys did see it as a blessing. I mean, it turned out well because they did come hand in hand and they were willing to keep the responsibilities. And I did have to remind them a couple times, you need to clean your room, or do you mind sweeping your room, or whatever, however I said it. And we did change the food we had in the house. It is hard to cook in somebody else's house. We don't eat mac and cheese and top ramen, but that's what they were used to cooking. And I can appreciate not wanting to, anyway, so we bought mac and cheese, and we had fruits and vegetables too, but we bought the mac and cheese and the top ramen and the Pop-Tarts and the stuff that it was easy for them to make, and the stuff that they were familiar with. Even the kids could make that stuff to make it easier on them. We did do that, absolutely, but we were not responsible for them. They were responsible for themselves. The only thing that we did was provide an opportunity for them to be responsible for themselves. It would have been bad for everybody if they marched to our house and said, you need to let us in. Your son said you would, and if you don't, then you're not a nice person. You're mean. You hate us. You are this, you're that. We would have just slammed the door in their face. But they came humbly, and we would not have been doing them a good service if we said, oh, you poor things, just make yourself at home, do whatever you want, take whatever you want. And they weren't responsible for anything. That also would not have worked out well. So, the reason it worked out well is because we did our part, which we didn't have to do, but we did it because we understood the situation, and we value our son. And honestly, we didn't think that our son would say that to somebody that was actually really dangerous and bad. We just kind of instinctively knew that, and they weren't dangerous or bad. They were actually very fun and funny, again, in and out of the addiction cycle. But we loved the parents. The dad especially was hilarious, and we ended up loving the kids. And they kept our numbers for years and would just text my husband and me individually. And we had a relationship with them. But the relationship was based upon boundaries, standards, accountability, expectations. It was not based upon, oh, you poor thing, come and take, that would have been disastrous, and it would have been ended in, it would have been ended in disappointment and whatever. But as it were, because it was a positive experience, each of those family members could individually knew where they could go, and they knew what they were going to be getting if they came to us. It wasn't going to be a free-for-all. They knew they would be getting genuine help and authentic encouragement and support. Anyway, something to think about. This is Vashti coming to you from Vashti's house. Have a great day and make yourself at home.